Hello everyone, today we're going to take a look at Cisco's new release of the CCIE practice labs. Now if you haven't heard, Cisco recently put together a series of labs that are accessible at a fairly reasonable price, so that those that are studying for particular CCIE lab exams can kind of get hands-on with some of the equipment and practice before actually doing the real lab exam. Now I personally think that this is a really good idea, something that should have come quite a long time ago, because especially with the advancements in technology, not everybody has the capabilities at home to be able to lab and prepare for lab exams as they would probably like to. And what that means is that you often spend time actually reading through documentation, which isn't a bad thing, but it's always better when you have the opportunity to be able to get hands-on with some of the equipment, especially the latest and greatest equipment that you may not have access to, not even in your normal day-to-day world. You just might not cover a particular technology in your day-to-day job. So I think this is a great idea. I'm really glad that Cisco kind of come forth and started to roll this out. And what I want to do is I want to kind of just go through some of the steps on how to get set up, how we can get set up, the sort of way the practice labs are set out, the cost, and we'll also take a look at a particular lab. We'll take a look at a CCIE security lab today, just to give you an idea of kind of what to expect before you purchase one of these and start to practice. So this is the page, and all links, all relevant links, I will include in my video description. So do check that out. But this is a page where you will come to access the CCIE practice labs. It's really worth reading if you're new to this or haven't heard of this, just to kind of understand a little bit more about it. But essentially, what it says here is that the CCIE practice labs lets you explore fully functional hands-on lab environments in 4-hour sessions for $50 per session. So that means you can select from a number of labs that are available at the moment, and you can schedule a 4-hour window where you will be able to focus on a particular area that's covered obviously within the exam blueprint for the CCIE that you're looking to sit. So this is in my opinion quite good. $50 for 4 hours to really focus on a particular lab, and that's half of a real CCIE exam. So what I would say is that if you are looking at kind of getting into this, make sure you do set time aside. I'm not too sure how the timing works. I don't think you can pause it, because you do book these in blocks, as it says here, and then obviously other people can then reserve the labs as well. But we'll take a look at that. Now, when you're ready to reserve your lab, there's actually a portal. So what we'll do is we'll actually click on this portal for now, and we'll take a quick look at this, and we'll have to log in. Alright, so once we've logged into that, we've clicked that, we'll come back to that and have a look at that in a minute. Let's just focus on this page first. We'll go back to the CCIE portal after. As I say, we can schedule in 4-hour blocks. You must validate your CCIE status by registering your written exam ID through the CCIE portal. So this means before you can actually start to book these practice labs, you need to have passed your CCIE written. So in my case, I've passed the CCIE security written. I've just got to sit the lab now, so I should theoretically have access to be able to book and make use of these labs. And as it says there, once you're registered, you'll be able to schedule your practice lab sessions. So let's have a look at some of the features that Cisco say are on offer here. So it gives us the opportunity to access equipment at an affordable price. So as I said earlier on, if you are one of those individuals that don't have a lab environment but really want to get hands-on with some of the equipment and technologies that you just can't access at home, then maybe this is a good way for you to do it. Maybe you don't have access to a certain technology or feature set within your day-to-day working environment. Again, this is probably a good idea to really consider and take a look at. A good point here that I really like is the chance to encounter topologies that are similar to the ones that you'll see in the lab exam. So how similar remains to be seen. I've not sat the lab exam yet. I am due to sit that, so I will kind of get a feel for that once I do that. But this is really promising because the kind of unknown thing about the CCIE or any CCIE is, what you're going to encounter. There's been times where you might see on Google, different custom topologies that have been set up to try and reflect a CCIE exam, if you like. I've also tried to create one to include all the technologies that are in the blueprint so that I can kind of get a feel for those in my own environment. But this is coming from the guys at Cisco that have a good overview of kind of what the lab exam looks like. So this is really promising. So if you are looking to really kind of test yourself under nail-like exam conditions in the real environment, then maybe this is for you as well. And push the boundaries. So it says here, run your own scenarios on the given setup. So this to me is saying that you have a lab environment, a 4-hour slot, focusing on a specific area, and you can pretty much do what you want in that environment. You're not limited to following a lab guide, or certain feature sets are not limited maybe. So this is great because it gives you the ability to be able to explore, troubleshoot, maybe even break things and try and fix it, as you would do in the real life lab exam as well. Again, so I pretty much call this out, and it goes kind of without saying. We get the opportunity to work with scenarios that focus on exam topics, and again, we reserve the 4-hour slots, and you can reserve as many times as you need. So we'll take a look at the booking thing in a minute and see how it works, and see just how many we can kind of reserve and stuff like that. And again, this is another promising one. So we can get acquainted with the lab delivery system before you actually take the CCIE exam. So this to me, and we'll probably see when we start getting into it, is going to put us under nail-like exam conditions. So it's, in my opinion, great because there's no worse than turning up to an exam and not knowing what to kind of expect, if that makes sense. So at least I've taken many certification exams, and the ones that I've failed, the second time I go back to try and take that certification again, I always feel more at ease. Still nervous, but more at ease because I kind of know what to expect. Whereas the first time you go, you don't really know what to expect, and everything's new, and it's just like, oh. So it's really nice that you have the opportunity here to really get acquainted with the system and how it works as well. So I'm not going to talk too much more on this. There's a FAQ section you can download at a glance. If you click on these bits here, it's just going to take you through what you watch. Scroll down here. An important point to mention is that at the moment, I believe the CCIE security track and the CCIE enterprise infrastructure track is only available at the moment for you to be able to practice lab with. As it says here, more CCIE practice labs will be available in the future. I don't think there's any time frames on that. There weren't really any time frames released to the public on when this whole setup was going to be released. It kind of just turned up one day and everyone was like, wow, okay. So It is something, if you are wondering, I could probably check internal to see if I could get you the answers. But if that's something that you do want to know, just reach out to me in the comment section, or if you're on any of the CCIE WebEx Teams groups, feel free to reach out to me on there, and I'll do my best to try and get you the answer, but I can't promise I'll be able to find out like that. Again, eligibility, you need to make sure that you've passed the written before you can actually do any of these, and then you've got going on to reserving your lab in the portal. So with that said, we'll jump into the portal now, and I've logged in already, and this is what it looks like. So we have the dashboard, which we're on now. We have the practice lab scheduler, which lets you, and for those that have booked the lab exam in real life, this looks similar to the way you would kind of book that as well. Payment history goes without saying, and then you got your own user profile as well. So just before we go back to the dashboard, let's take a look at how we could kind of schedule a lab. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to, I think at the minute actually I can only see security, so I don't know if any enterprise infrastructure ones are available. I would have to check that. If you have done this yourself, do let me know if you've managed to see any enterprise infrastructure ones. This is probably worth mentioning, this is the first time I'm really exploring this with you guys, so as you're seeing this now, I'm pretty much seeing a lot of this new as well. So I will try to find that out, but at the minute for me it only looks like security is available, and maybe that's because I've passed the written security, but I don't think that should be the case. But anyway, let's stick with security. So we select our lab type, security, and then when we look at the topics, you can see you've basically got quite a few different lab environments that we can kind of go into based on the blueprint topics. So it looks like if we wanted to do AMP for endpoints and AMP for network deployment, there's a kind of a scenario, a topology if you like, based around that. Similarly for ESAs, there's a deployment around that. You've got in my opinion, a quite important one actually, which is policy orchestration using DNAC and network device administration using TACACS. And the reason I say that that's important is because you can't really virtualize DNAC yet. I believe there is virtual images available. I believe some people have managed to do that, but the resource usage that it requires is absolutely ridiculous. So I don't have a virtual DNAC running, and many people don't really have access to DNAC. So if I was to look at booking one of these practice exams, I think the one that I would really focus on at the moment is DNAC, or any of the others that I don't have access to, but that's for me. We then have remote access VPN deployments. So that's interesting. It doesn't say whether it's ASA, FTD. It might be a mix of both, which would be good. I think actually my lab's based on that today, so we can probably take a look at that. And then we've got site-to-site VPN deployments. Again, it doesn't mention ASA or FTD. And then lastly, we have WSA. So you can see, as I said, this is new. So this is probably not going to be the end list of the labs that are available, so kind of take this with a pinch of salt, because we can kind of see there's no mention there of ICE. I mean, it might be covered under DNAC, but there's no specific ICE environment there. We can't see any Stealth Watch there. There's a few other things. There's no Duo there, can't see, even though it's technically, don't think, covered in the blueprint. But anyway, let's say we wanted to select remote access VPN deployment. It's search for seats. So this is similar to what it does to when you actually book a lab exam, or come to book a lab exam. And now we can see there's multiple days available, and there's a number of seats available. I wish this was actually the case in real life for the real life exam. I mean, the few and far between. So anyway, we can either select a date here, or we can select a date from the table below. And let's just say, for instance, we selected, let's go with next week. We've got a list of times here based on the time zone, so we can see that some slots are taken already. We can see that some are available, and they're all 4-hour windows, as I said. So let's say we wanted to book 8:30 in the evening until midnight, just after midnight. We select that, and then we go to next, and then you go through to payment confidentiality and intellectual property ownership. What you get then after pressing next is you would get your payment information, which I'm not going to press next because my details will come up. You then go on to confirm that payment, and then your reservation's confirmed as well. Again, it's worth reading the facts around this on whether you can cancel and stuff like that. I don't know if it's, let's see if it's actually covered in here. Okay, so yeah, there's a FAQs here which has loads of questions that you might be asking yourself. I won't run through them all, but one that I've just kind of answered for myself there is that refunds are not available. So once you book or schedule one of these, you cannot get a refund for these, and it's kind of covered there again. So there's a few other questions here, so I highly suggest and recommend that you read that, because there'll probably be some questions in there that will be answered for you without having to reach out to me on chat or Twitter or anywhere else. So let's go back to the dashboard now, and we can see here I've pretty much passed the prerequisites that are required. So I've got my firepower certification here, I've got a CCNP enterprise that I did, and then I've also got my basically CCIE written there, which qualifies me to be able to do this. Again, you have a little section on your dashboard where you can book the lab exam, the practice lab exam that is. There's links to recertification, CCIE trackers, all that good stuff. And then the main part is once you've got active labs here, they will show up here. So we can see I've got one here at the moment, and I'm late starting that because I had to set up this video and pretty much prepare for this. But at least we'll still be able to get a sneak peek today at kind of what you can expect when coming to start this and get involved with this. My payment status says free lab, and that's because you don't get free labs. My payment status is free labs because I am obviously part of Cisco and doing this video to kind of demonstrate the capabilities of this to you guys as well. So you can see my slot's 4 hours, 4 hours in UK time. We can see the topic that I'm covering, and once we're ready to start, we can just click on that, and then we can just go ahead now and start practice lab, and it doesn't reload. Okay, so I've just realized and that's probably, as I said, I am new to this just as you are, looking at this maybe for the first time, accessing this for the first time. I am. So don't just do what I just did, which was start practice lab. There's a little question mark, and maybe this, some feedback for Cisco. Maybe it may be covered somewhere else. But maybe there needs to be another section or something that pops up before you can start the lab, which kind of gives you these prerequisites here. So because all it's going to do is take you to this link. But before we do that, we need to, as it says here, we need to download and install AnyConnect, and then we connect to the VPN with a username and a password. and then we can then browse to the lab. So we're going to do that now. Let's go through this process. So if I just click this link, it's going to take me to the AnyConnect downloads, and let's go to downloads here. And I need to look for the right package for me. Okay, so mine is here, AnyConnect pre-deployment package for Windows. So let's go ahead and download that. Accept. That's just going to start downloading now. So I'm just going to run through the install now. There we go. So when you deploy the or when you download the pre-deployment package, you'll get a number of different ones. We just need to install the VPN. So once that's installed, let's get that open. So we've got that there, and we can see it pop up now at the bottom. So let's close that and let's go back to the information we need. So let's connect to practicelabs.cisco.com. So I'll copy that, and we'll enter that into our VPN AnyConnect client. We'll click connect, and while that's doing that, let's get the username. So we've got the username there. So we'll enter our username into that field, and then similarly with the password, we'll also enter the password, and then we'll press OK to connect. Let's just copy that password again. Okay, so VPN authentication failed. We're getting a fail. So in the facts, there is a little bit here that basically says that the confirmation email that you get, make sure that you take a note of the information in there, use those details. You can only authenticate successfully 10 minutes before the start of the lab session, and if you attempt to authenticate before or after this session, it'll result in a failed authentication. So this says carefully verify session details including time zone within the confirmation email. Now this was put together for a colleague inside of Cisco for me. I don't remember receiving a confirmation email, so I can't actually refer to that. So that's interesting. But we can see that the time zone is Europe, London, which is where I am, and we can see that the time slot is within the time slot. It's currently 11 AM and this is booked for 9:30 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon. So we shouldn't have any issues actually connecting to this, so that's interesting. So I'll try again, and if not, I'm probably going to have to report this and get back to you hopefully with another session around this. Maybe this is a trick. Maybe I actually have to troubleshoot this authentication before I can actually access the lab. Who knows? We'll find out. Yeah, definitely authentication failing there. I'll quickly check my emails. I don't think I've seen anything through, however. Nevertheless, I'll check my emails, and then if not, as I say, So I'll check my emails. As I said, I don't think I've received anything through. If not, what I'll do is reach out to the guys internally, and we'll come back to you with part 2, exploring the lab in a little bit more detail and seeing what we can do there. So stay tuned for that one, and hopefully you found this video useful, going through kind of what's required to actually access the practice labs, even though we actually didn't get into the labs, but you know, the sort of breakdown of what to expect. If you've got any questions, like I said, do reach out to me if you're watching this on YouTube, in the comment section, or if you have me on any social media, you can reach out to me on there. Or you know, if you're internal to Cisco, feel free to reach out to me as well. And I definitely suggest that you read the FAQs before reaching out, because I think there's quite a lot of questions that could be answered in there. But if they're not, then like I say, reach out to me and I will do my best to get you the answers.